Welcome to episode 209 of Missing Pieces. This is my weekly audio journal podcast where I talk about what I'm up to and what I'm into. This week, back on schedule, recording this on Friday afternoon like I like to do. And that's even after going out yard sailing this morning and having a great time, which I'll talk about. In fact, that's going to be most of what I talk about because this week, it wasn't the best of weeks. In fact, going into this, as of right now, I didn't even really have an outline because this week was all comprised of the same thing. And that was staying home with Clark Man because he was sick the entire week. In fact, this goes all the way back to last weekend. Before you listen to episode 208 on Saturday morning, we were going out to community yard sales as we do around this time of year. And it was really weird because Clark Man was still asleep at like 7 o'clock in the morning. And that is very unlike him. Unlike most kids, I think. Clark Man is an early riser. I've never had to really wake Clark up for anything. He gets up like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I know some parents out there are like, why can't my kid do that? And I don't know whether this is going to go into his teenage years and beyond, but we're all kind of early birds here. Early to bed, early to rise, I suppose. Makes a man healthier, wealthier, and wise. So I've heard. Hasn't worked for me yet. But, you know, it's just our routine. And he's never had an issue with getting up early, except for when he's sick. So on Saturday morning, he was still asleep at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, okay, maybe he just needs to catch up. So I got a shower and he ended up getting up and he was ready on time. And we went out yard sailing. Things were good. He seemed to be fine. But then as the morning kind of went on, I noticed his energy level was dipping a bit. And he was kind of just like looking tired. And I was like, oh, that's not good because that's like the indicator that he's about to get sick or he is sick. And when you know it, Sunday, he's got a fever, pretty high one. So we start treating that. He stays home Monday, still has a fever. Tuesday, still with the fever. Wednesday, fever kind of goes away, but then this cough starts developing and it's like, oh my gosh. So I ended up taking him to the doctor on Thursday just to get him looked at because I'm like, man, this cough does not sound good. And better safe than sorry because that's what your pediatrician's for, right? To take your kid there to have him looked at. And we were just there 3 months ago with a similar ailment. And we went back this time. He listened to his lungs, checked him out, and he thought that Clark Man has pretty much kicked this for the most part with the fever being gone. And his lungs sounded like they were recovering and he was doing well. So they didn't even need to put him on any kind of antibiotic or anything. Just said, you know, he's fine. You can send him back to school anytime. And it was a real bummer because yesterday, which was Thursday, he really wanted to go because it was like class field trip day. And field trips today, at least in our school district, are very unlike field trips from when I was a kid. Like we would go places like Hershey Park, for example, or make it really special. Ever since COVID, and Cody and I were talking about, this is a great topic for this episode because I'd love to hear your feedback on this. So get your fingers ready to type. Ever since COVID, like they stopped doing field trips altogether. And now our field trip is just a trip to the park where they like spend the day outside playing around. And I'm just like, dude, like field trips used to be like something amazing. Regardless, Clark didn't get to go. And because we didn't think it'd be good for him to be outside running around and goofing off with like the cough that he has and stuff and wearing him down. Cause he's still like, he was taking 2-hour naps each day during the day. So Clark Man, first of all, he never wants to take a nap. He didn't put up a fuss at all, but Cody and I were like, hey, you should take a nap. It'll help you, recharge and feel better. So he didn't put up a fuss and he was down for a long time, at which point he was frustrated with because he doesn't want to lose any time. He doesn't like to sleep because he's missing out on activity, right? But I wanted to talk about the topic here that spontaneously come up. If I told you I didn't have an outline for this episode, would you believe me? But I still want to make an episode, even if our week was mainly just us hanging around playing video games. COVID. Really, I feel like a lot of companies and organizations have really taken advantage of the whole COVID thing and things haven't recovered or been the same or improved. Like, for example, like the field trip thing is just one small example. But then you think about how a lot of prices have gone up exponentially, even with inflation since COVID. And like you blame things on like the supply shortages and this and that. And then to me, and I remember staying at a hotel one time where it was like, we no longer clean your room on the nights of your stay unless you stay for more than 4 days because of COVID. And this is like 2 years after it. And I'm like, you're just trying to save money. You're just trying to cut costs. And I was thinking about how many things haven't gone back to the way they were before. Like I was watching this thing about how much better Disney World used to be before COVID. Like they actually had like meal plans where you could save money. They would take you from the airport to your resort and then like take your bags up, and now you have to like pay for a taxi or Uber or find your own way. And there's all these examples of things that prior to COVID were like creature comfort's nice. I remember people saying like stores used to be open 24 hours a day. Then with COVID that stopped and then they just never came back. And I just feel like, and maybe this is just like conspiracy Greg acting out here, thinking out loud. I feel like people or companies use that as a way to stop doing things that they did before that were beneficial to customers. So let me know. This would be a great topic for next week. What are some things that you have noticed in your life or in your experiences that, say, 4 or 5 years ago were a thing that are no longer a thing now, or things that are worse now than what they were before? Because it's like, I guess you could even say just a lot of technology has made things worse too, in terms of interaction, socialization. All these things have gone by the wayside in search of convenience. Like think about DoorDash, for example. Like you and your family maybe used to go to a restaurant and you'd sit in there, have a good time. Then it went to people dropping off food on your doorstep, and then you wait for them to leave so you can reach your little grubby hands out and grab it and go eat in your own home, which there's nothing wrong with. But I'm just thinking about these things. Deb and I were talking about that today too, where, things were, I guess, back in the day better than they are now. Maybe this is just the plight of humanity in general. Everyone always talks about, no matter how old you are, how things used to be better back when you were a kid or back then. Even if you were a kid in the 1990s or 1970s or 1950s, everything was better the generation before. So are we just on a downhill slide, or are memories just held sacred and they just make things seem better than they were at the time? I don't know, but I think that would be a great listener feedback, which we have some today too. And you guys have actually saved me, because this episode, I was actually thinking today, not because I didn't want to do an episode, because I really do. I'm excited about this, but I was like, dang, what am I going to talk about? My whole week was just Clark and I playing video games, which I'm failing to see the problem here. But it wasn't like me going out doing my normal things that I do and getting into my usual routine, which as of lately, as you know, has been like reselling and stuff. And I've been having so much fun with it, and I can't stop because it's so great. And the sales are coming in, and I'm packaging stuff up and listening to podcasts, and it's like, yes. In fact, I'm like running out of stuff. So if you guys have any recommendations on things I can listen to, I'm thinking about like doubling down on Audible. I have a history of subscribing to Audible, and I'll read a book, and then like when I'm done and with that book, then I unsubscribe, because it's like, okay, I read the book that I want to read or listen to. I guess it's still considered reading, even if you're not physically reading it with your eyes. And then I'm just like, okay, I'll come back whenever there's a book. And there hasn't, like, I don't really follow, not like on Book Talk or YouTube book algorithm or whatever. So I don't really follow what good books are coming out. But I mentioned last week that I want to read or listen to the Silo books. And I think I'm going to resubscribe. In fact, I saw a promo where it was like 3 months for $7 a month. And it's usually like 15, I think, for a credit. They give you 1 credit per month if you've never done Audible. I'd like to thank our sponsor today, Audible. Use code Missing Pieces. No, we don't have that. I do have a Patreon, though, if you'd like to support the channel that way. You could subscribe to Patreon and buy my Audible book for me. Thank you. I'll listen to Silo in your honor, and I'll tell you all about it next week's episode. Anyways, I really enjoy listening to things while I'm doing stuff. I'm like a multitasker, and I wouldn't necessarily sit down to read a book, but I like to listen to things. And I go through my weekly podcast list is not very long, and I go through them on like right when they come out. I'm like fiending for my next podcast episode, maybe like you are with this, which I doubt, but maybe. So I need new stuff to listen to, and finding podcasts is not an easy thing to do. Like, I don't know, I just go into like Apple, and all of the popular ones are just like serialized crime podcasts and sports and political stuff, which I'm not interested in any of those things, to be honest. If I could just find some people that do audio journals every week that I could listen to, I would love that. Even if I didn't know the person, I would get to know them through their podcast, and I would just love to hear like, what happened to you this week? I'm looking for like, this is what I'm looking for. I know it's probably an acquired taste, and not many people feel comfortable enough to really put themselves out there like this. Some people have called this narcissistic, talking about yourself entirely in a podcast, but it's not like this is an interview podcast. This isn't a thing where I'm delivering information. I'm not telling you about the stock market or telling you about a crime that was committed years ago and how everything went down and how they're trying to solve it. No, it's just an audio journal, and it doesn't pretend to be anything more than that. I'm looking for things like that. And the only guy that I know that does it is my buddy Ronnie. And his is better because he's combined his podcast with his vlogs. So it's like a kind of like a voiceover. It'd be like me saying like, today we went out yard sailing, and then it cuts to us yard sailing, which makes it really cool. Acquired taste for some maybe, but I enjoy it thoroughly. Anyways, I say all that to say that I am desperate for things to consume while I am doing other things like walking the dog or listing things for sale, anything. Like I'm here by myself all day. I need things to listen to. And I'm not much of a music guy. I don't really listen to music that much. I just like spoken word. I just like listening to whatever I can. Even a lot of YouTube channels that I watch, my favorite ones are ones that I don't really need to watch what they're doing. I just listen in, and it can be the most boring of things. As long as it occupies some time, I like it. So yeah, I'll report back. Plus, if I read books and stuff, it could expand my mind and stuff. That's what these English teachers say that I live with, like a book can change your perspective on the world. And maybe, I don't know if Silo is going to do that, but maybe through reading those and the things I learn, I can pass on to you or send recommendations to you for things, and maybe it'll help you as well. So you never know what the power of reading a book could do, especially if you share that experience with others out there, just like anything. Which is brings us to my point in the podcast where I try to encourage you, if you have a hobby or a passion or something that you like, you should consider sharing that with the world, because you just never know who could connect with that, and you never know what could come of it. Maybe your love of making things out of metal and welding random parts together to create animals, like the guy that I talked to today that came to our yard sale last year. Maybe that's something that's inspiring to someone, and then they go and do it. I don't know. It's just the power of the internet. It can be a thing used for great good or great evil, just like the Force, the dark side. So. Wouldn't know where that was going, but that is a topic. Okay, so let's talk about Thursday, because Monday through Wednesday, Sunday was the day the podcast came out. I think we just chilled that day because Clark Man was sick, and then that was basically Monday through Wednesday. A lot of us just watching stuff and gaming, which I don't have a problem with. It's a bummer Clark missed all those days, but it was wonderful to have him home and gave me a little preview of the summer. But the downside of him being home was that, and sick particularly, was that we couldn't do all the stuff that I want to do. Like I would have loved to take him to an amusement park that day, or go play RC cars, or go shoot the basketball or whatever. And it's just like he didn't have the energy for that. So it's like awesome being home, but not awesome when it's nice outside. Although it did rain a lot this week, it was warm enough out that we could have done some things, but we didn't. So that's okay. That being said, the day you're listening to this, speaking of doing things in amusement parks, we may be going to Knoebels the day you're listening to this. So wish me luck, because the weather's supposed to be good that day. Knoebels has been open for 3 weeks now, I believe, 2 to 3 weeks, and every single weekend it's rained. And I feel awful for them, because I want them to make as much money as physically possible so they can keep that wonderful theme park going, or amusement park, I should say. And when it rains, that means less people, or fewer people. So I'm hoping this weekend, with the weather being good, we can get a chance to go for the first time of the year. Of course, I'll make a vlog sharing our experience, and I want to see some other people out there too, so we can keep this place in business, because it's very important to me. So that'll be cool. But let's go back in time to Thursday. Took Clark Man to the doctor. This is when things like actually started getting interesting this week, and where I feel like I can actually share a little bit of something of interest to you here on this lovely podcast. Went to the doctor. I called at like 8 o'clock in the morning, first thing. Cody was concerned, and I said, he's got this cough now, and they're like, okay, bring him in. And we got cleared. In fact, doctor said he could go to school today. And I was like, well, they're doing their field trip thing today, and he's got a lot going on. So we got a doctor's excuse. But then I was like, hey, Clark, you up for an adventure? And he was down. So we went to this tag sale that was out near our old mall. And I went there looking for a GameCube. I saw in their photos there was a GameCube, which was overpriced for what it was. There was no controller, but it was a black GameCube with all the wires and stuff for $45. And I wanted to go there, and I wouldn't offer him like $20 or $25 for this GameCube. And we got there probably like 9 o'clock. It opened at 8. And I looked like in the area where it would have been with the photos and the electronics, and there was no GameCube there. So I ended up finding something. I found a Kodak camera. It was like a easy share camera for $5 that was there. And it's worth like 20. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to leave empty handed. I'll take this. Offered them 3 for it. They took that. The only reason I offered it is because I only had 3 $1 bills, and everything else was like 20s. I had, thousands of dollars. No, I'm just kidding. I had three singles. So I was like, hey, we take 3 for this. And she's like, yeah. And I said, did you see a video game console come through here? My first time speaking English, I'm sorry. And she's like, yeah, it was a cube, some type of cube. I was like, a game cube. She's like, yeah, it pretty much sold right away. And I was like, I knew it. They probably paid full price, which if they did, still kind of a deal, but no controller and stuff. Yeah, not great. So that was a bummer, but got my little camera and I said, hey, Clark, man, what do you think about going to the bins? And he wasn't too excited about it, but I was like, we'll speed run it. So we did. And he was actually helping me in there. It was great. He was looking for things. He found a Hot Wheels, which we ended up getting. It was $2 a day, but I ended up fine. I think I spent $14. So we got 7 things, 6 of which were, I think, pretty good scores to get in flippable items. So that was fun. And then the rest of the day, what did we do? We came home. We did a little Hot Wheels racing to test out the new car. Because obviously you need to see if the new car you got is as fast as your other ones, which it lost the race, which is why it was probably in the bins. People knew it wasn't a super fast Hot Wheels. So we did that. We played some games. I did some eBay listings while Clark Man took a nap. And then by that time he got up, Cody was home. So that was like our Thursday wrapped. But today was the day I was looking forward to the most. And unfortunately, it was the day that Clark Man actually went back to school. I say unfortunately because I wanted to go out to the yard sales like very early today, but I had to wait for him to get on the bus because, he had to go to school today, particularly because next year he switches schools and they were taking a tour of the new school he'll be going to next year today. And I thought, him being a part of that tour, it would be a good thing because it'll make him more comfortable as we go into next year with him already having gone there and looked around and been with his class and they show, the lay of the land. So you're not overwhelmed when you go in for 4th grade and it's like, oh my gosh, it's a whole new place, whole new world, in the words of Ariel from Little Mermaid. This is where we're at in this podcast. So he went there and I got in the car and I went out and I picked up Yami to go take her yard sale. And you may be asking, where's Pap? It's yard sale season. Let's have some fun. Well, guess who's also sick? Pap. Pap got sick shortly after visiting with us last weekend for obvious reasons. The Clark Man most likely got him sick and he has it real bad. Like he's basically in bed. He's not really eating. He's got a bad cough and it's like, dang. So Clark Man got wiped for an entire week. Bud Man got wiped. Deb's fine. My mother-in-law, Cody, and I are fine. Mrs. Brickatecta, as she's known in some circles. We're all good. So I don't know what the story is, but it seems like the sicknesses that Clark Man's had lately are like debilitating. Like it's not like, ooh, I got the sniffles, I'm going to go back to school tomorrow. It's like, I'm down for a week. In fact, we had a social worker call us this week. Called on like Tuesday and they're like, hey, we were calling about Clark. And Cody's like, yeah, he's sick and, all of this. And they're like, oh, okay. I'm assuming it's just like a checklist that they have. And I told the doctor, he's like, oh yeah, they're on it. So, I don't have any issues with that. In fact, I remember the last time they called us, we were in Hawaii with Clark. They called us in Hawaii. They're like, hey, we're checking on Clark. And it's like, yeah, he's still going to school. It's just we're on vacation now. And thank you for calling. But they have their best interests at heart. They're looking to make sure that, I guess, this kid's okay. He didn't get kidnapped. He's not being pulled out of school. He's not truant. I got a doctor's excuse. So we got everything in the clear. He's back to school. His grades are still good. We practiced his spelling words and he did a perfect job this morning. So school is not forgotten, but we're almost in the clear. And I thought we would be, like, we're so close to the end. There's like literally 2 weeks and 2.5 days left. So 12.5 days of school. And he just got sick. But today, after I picked up Yami, we went out yard sailing, and the community yard sale is out in Woolrich, if you're from the area. If you ever know what Woolrich is, it's like they used to make clothes. Like the town's named after like the clothing brand called Woolrich, which they used to make wool clothes there back in the day that were very expensive and very well made, handmade in this area, which of course they're not anymore. It's like out of business, probably because it's cheaper to make things elsewhere. Another thing that COVID ruined. No, this is long gone before that happened. But man, we found some great stuff today. I remember going out last year to these ones on a Friday and like feeling kind of skunked, if I remember properly. But tomorrow it's supposed to rain, which would be Saturday. So I think a lot of people are like, okay, let's just get everything out on Friday and we'll do the best we can. And it seems like everywhere I went, it's seemingly I was finding really great stuff. Not like even in Lego, which I'm excited to share. You'll see all this. In fact, that video might, if I play my cards right, that video might be out by the time you're watching this. So you'll see like today on Sunday. I have a video from yesterday to edit and I got today. So we got a little editing to do. But that's fun because it's like, I love it because it's like sculpting. It's taking this block and making a lovely sculpture out of it that people can watch and hopefully be entertained by or encouraged. as we talked about last week. Inspired, informed. I don't know, probably none of those things, but it's, it's something. It's a home movie of my day. So we ended up finding a bunch of scores, had a great time. It was just me and Deb. And the craziest thing happened. You guys aren't going to believe this. She's going to punch me for saying this. The one yard sale I went to, I was buying some things and, finding things all excitedly. And I looked around and didn't see Deb. So I went back to the car. She's in the car waiting for me. The first time that Deb has ever waited for me at a yard sale, and not vice versa. I didn't even know what to do with myself, but we went through, we had a great time, nice little conversation with us. I pretty much have the coolest mother-in-law. Like, it doesn't get any better. They're just great people, and they've accepted me into their family. Unlike, I feel like a son to them, and they've done so much for me. And I just am such a lucky dude to marry into such a great family. I married up for sure. I have a beautiful wife who has a lovely family, and we love the same things. And it's great. So I'm very happy about that. Also, not only is Deb great for yard selling with and awesome, she's also like an amazing cook too. So that's just, have I won life's lottery? You could say that. I think so. Anyways, we had a great time doing that. We hunted for some more yard sales afterwards, but they were like already packing up. So we did the most logical thing. We got some lunch. I treated her to lunch at Wendy's, and their spicy nuggets. Try them. They're delicious. I also tried their new ghost pepper ranch sauce. Pretty good, especially with the spicy nuggets. Make sure you got your drink handy. We got some fries. She tried like this wrap thing. It was like a chicken wrap, and she got a little burger. So that was great. We shared the fries, shared a milkshake. We didn't do that. And I took her home. She's going to take my eBay orders over today because I forgot to stop by the post office. So she's going to do that for me, which I appreciated. And it was a great time. Came home. I did my little haul. Funny thing about when I came home, and this is in the video, you're going to love this. I'm showing off everything I got. And the one thing that I got was this box of Happy Meal toys for $3. Whole, like, vintage ones, new ones are in there. They were 5 cents each. And I said, how much do you want for the whole box? Because I've been wanting to sell toys on my eBay channel. I want to kind of become like a toy seller. And I was going to buy like a box of action figures or something today, which didn't come up. But I thought, hey, this Happy Meal box would be fun, just to kind of go through and find some like treasures in there, especially older stuff. And I saw some stuff from my childhood. So I think it's like maybe the parents' stuff and then the kids' stuff all mixed together. I just want the old stuff. But I brought it home, and Roxy did her Roxy maneuver, which is she goes shopping in our halls. She roots her little snout in there, and she came out with like a plushie, like a Beanie Baby of sorts. And while I was shooting the video, it was so funny. And then she went in and got another one, and I just thought it was great. So that was like the highlight of my day. There were no pets out today. I got to pet literally 0 dogs. I saw 1 cat, but the lady said he was an old, miserable old man cat, and he went running away when we got there. So that was one failed mission at the yard sale, because I go not only to find scores, but I go to pet people's pets. It's what I love to do. So I had to settle with petting Mickey, which was wonderful. He's so soft compared to Roxy. Like, yellow labs have they're like a softer fur, and chocolate labs, it's almost like kind of like wiry hair. So they're not quite as soft, but still lovable. And I was a little bummed that no one had their pets out today, but I did find some great stuff. I think I spent like $100. 60 of that is in Lego. So you'll have to stay tuned to see that. But again, the video hopefully will be out sometime around the time that this comes out. If you're listening on Sunday, if you're listening later in the week, you're golden. It's definitely out by then. So that was a fun time. Came home, did my little haul, ended my video. And then I was like, now's the time that we should go do the podcast, because I got some time. Cody will be home here shortly. But yeah, that was pretty much my week. Again, it was mostly lost days, and I didn't really vlog anything. It was like, we're just home every day. And usually I'm out and about doing stuff and making things happen, but not so much this week. But that's okay. I had time with my dude. And someday, when old man Greg is sitting here doing episode number 509, he's going to be like, oh, I miss those days with little Clark Man when he was home with me. I say that now. Like, I miss the days when Clark Man was just a little preschool kid, and we had every day together to do whatever we wanted. It was great. But now school has kind of interfered with that. But he's also learned a lot. He knows how to read. He's great at math. He's at a 5th grade level in reading. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but it's my time to brag about my son. 5th grade level. That's pretty darn cool. And his teacher was trying to get him in advanced classes, or what do they call it, gifted classes. but you have to reach it's like a certain level, like a 95% on these tests. And he was just under that. But his teacher was like, there's only 3 students in the entire school, which is comprised of 4 grades that qualify for this. So I'm like, what's the point of having a gifted program if there's only 3 kids in the entire school that fall into it? Anyways, let's just say that Clark's on the cusp of that, and it's pretty cool because he's something special. But then again, it's also an issue, I feel like, a little bit with him relating to other kids. Part of it could be because he's like an only child and he's around adults mostly, but I feel like he has a hard time like falling in with other kids his age because he's at a maturity level that they're not quite at. So we're going to have to try to work our way around that. I think maybe that'll change as he gets older, but we're still, trying to figure that all out. I just want him to have a good experience. That's the whole reason I want him in school, is so he can interact with other kids and have a socialization experience where he can see, this is how other kids are. This is how you act around other people your age. This is how you share. This is how you communicate in a more professional environment. This is how things are done. This is how to follow rules. All of those things are very important to learn. And I think school is valuable for that. Plus all the learning that he's doing there. It's much, to be honest, like I considered homeschooling him, but I think he's getting a great education there and they're doing a good job. They did not pay me to say that. They do not have a gun to my head. I'm blinking twice. They do. I'm just kidding. Anyways, that was my whole week. And I have no regrets, even though we didn't get quite as much done. I don't have as much to share with you here. It was solid 4 days with the little man, and I cherish that time. So let's go into listener feedback for this week. You guys absolutely saved me because obviously that was it. This would be the end of the podcast. We're not even 30 minutes in, but we've got some from Ashley, who says, Happy Mother's Day to Cody and Yemi. Yes, you're correct. We do not want to cook on Mother's Day. I talked about how Yemi had the idea to do like a cookout. We were going to do like hot dogs and hamburgers, have some potato salad, pasta salad, that kind of stuff. But Cody didn't seem to really want to do that. So we ended up getting some Italian, ordering from OIP essentially. Filippo's is the place. She says, doesn't want to cook on Mother's Day or serve food or clean it up. That's the worst part of cooking. Takeout is the best on Mother's Day, in my opinion. Our community has a yard sale every June. Sometimes I participate and sometimes I don't. But I'm definitely that person who tries to give stuff away. My rule is what goes out does not come back. A couple of years ago, I walked around for a yard sale and we got a Thomas table for $10. I superglued Lego base plates on one side and made a Lego table as well. I know that you talked about streaming services in the past. Do you prefer any specific ones or have any advice for a first-time streamer? I still have cable with internet and phone, and my bill is up to $330. I just died a little bit. Your 5th P could be Pix. I'm writing that down. Pretzels, pickles, parks. Pix? I like that. Pickles and Pix. Ooh. That'd be a good channel if you love pickles and you like hunting for stuff. One more thing. Don't forget to come to Del Grosso's. You'd make a 6-year-old very, very, very happy, but no pressure. Have a great week. I would love to go to Del Grosso's. It's kind of like Knoebels. I don't think it's that far from us either. I think it's like in the other direction. But I would love to try it out. Del Grosso's and Dutch Wonderland are great parks, especially for littler kids to have fun. And I think I would like it too. But I'm trying to convince Clarkman to ride some scary stuff with me at Hershey Park, Ashley. I'm like, that ride only does 4 barrel rolls, Clarkman. You got this. He's like, gulp. Anyways, let's talk about your comment here. Yard sale. Yeah, like on Saturday, say you do your yard sale on Friday and Saturday. By Saturday at like noon, you either need to like give that stuff away or you're going to be packing it back up and taking it back in. So that's like a great time. If you're a bargain hunter and you're okay with just piling your car full of junk, Saturday around lunchtime, you can get whatever you want for whatever price you want. Because at that point, everybody's come through and looked at it. If no one's made an offer on anything or bought it, it means that like no one wants it. So it's a great time to be out yard selling. I like going to, there's like people that have yard sales every year and I love it because it's like, oh, I bought this. We always say in the car, we're like, oh, I bought this thing there from them 2 years ago or this year. This place always has great yard sales. So community ones are just so much fun. And the fact that they're all lined up, you can just kind of go right up through the line. Or if you live in a town that's kind of like a city, I guess you can go the grid. You can walk around the block and see who's selling what. It's a great time. As for streaming services, Honestly, like, I feel like Amazon Prime Video is absolutely kicking. I feel like there's a lot of good stuff on there, surprisingly. Plus, you get like the free shipping and all that stuff. And there's a chance you might already have Amazon Prime. Like, there's a good chance. Most people, I would say, well, I don't know most people, but a lot of people have Amazon. We do it because we live kind of rurally and there's not a lot of shopping opportunities. It's nice to just click a button and 2 days later, something's at your house. But Amazon Prime Video comes with that. And there's a lot of different shows on there. There's a lot of movies and stuff. I'm impressed. I would say most people would probably say Netflix is their favorite one, but I find that Netflix is mostly quantity over quality. There's a lot of stuff, but not much that I'm super interested in. I dropped HBO Max a while ago. Disney Plus, if you have kids, is probably like the absolute killer. You have a 6-year-old, you're probably gonna have a great time with Disney Plus. They've got so much content, especially with the kids' movies and shows and stuff. You guys are gonna go wild. If your cable bill, I don't know if that's normal, but $330 seems crazy. I think you need to. I bet if you were to even just call them and threaten to leave, they're probably gonna get your bill lowered or decreased if we're using proper English. So yeah, I would definitely like look into that. I would cut the cable and internet and phone. What I would do, I don't know if you have home phone or not. I'd lose the home phone. We did this years ago. This is Greg's financial advice. Lose the home phone. Get rid of the cable. Like instantly get rid of the cable. If you have a home phone, get rid of that too, unless you feel like you really need it, which we haven't had a home phone in like 8 years and have had no issues. And then I would say, like, what are your internet options? Most times these companies are monopolies. Like we have Comcast. Our other option is Comcast or Xfinity as it's called now, or we could go with Xfinity or Xfinity. There are options for cable internet, which you kind of need to have if you want high speed. So I would drop those two things, ask them what their internet packages are, and then get one that's like decent speed, but it doesn't need to be crazy. Like I pay for the fastest one that I can get because I do streaming and all this other stuff. I'm uploading videos and whatnot. But if I didn't do that, I wouldn't even need that. We pay like, I think it's like $90 a month is all we pay. And then I have Netflix. We got Amazon Prime Video, of course. We got Disney Plus. I think that's it. That's all we got. And I'm pretty happy. Like I don't feel like I'm missing anything. Now, occasionally, like if you're into sports or you want to watch the Super Bowl or whatever, you can even stream that. Like we stream the Super Bowl on CBS or on Paramount Plus. We have that too. I pay yearly for that to save money. Paramount Plus is probably the weakest of the bunch. I wouldn't get that. I just got that because Cody likes watching Colbert and I like watching Survivor. We watch that, although I've kind of given up on that. So I don't think I'll renew CBS. But yeah, that's it. That's what I would do. And save you a bunch of money. Then you can take that extra, probably like $150 to $200 you're saving. And then you could take that yard sailing and just think of all the great finds. For dude, you take $150 yard sailing, you're gonna fill up a truck, moving truck probably. Thank you for commenting though and giving us the perspective of a mother on Mother's Day. You don't want to cook. You just want to have some food. You don't even like. You just want to eat some food and you want to throw it away, or you want to go out for dinner, which it's crazy to do on Mother's Day, but it can be done. Next one comes from. Thank you for commenting though. Lovely comment. Next one comes from Jabbo over at Brickzar. He says, I find it funny people always connect reselling as something negative or scalping. This is from the comment that I got last week that basically called me a dirty old scalper for reselling things I find at the bins, particularly medical related items. He says, do they not shop at all? Have they never bought from Walmart or any other store? How do they think those places stay in business? Once I got the comment that you should never sell something for more than you paid for it, as that was morally wrong. I always assume such dumb comments are children and they just don't have life experience yet. On their side, though, people can ask too much for something, like concert tickets you mentioned, but the market takes care of itself, and that usually for products people have FOMO with tickets do sometimes overpay. Agreed. That's like a very limited item that it's in high demand. And again, the market kind of works its way out there. If there's somebody that's willing to pay $5,000 to go see Taylor Swift, so be it. Like I don't have any animosity or feel negatively about someone that bought a ticket for $100 and they're like, hey, somebody's willing to pay $5,000 for this concert. I'm going to sell my ticket. It's the same thing with like, there's Lego sets that I bought since Jabbo's into Lego. He can relate to this. There's Lego sets that I've purchased in the past that have gone into my backlog. that I may have gotten on sale at a great deal, say $100, for example. And today that Lego set is worth $400. I look at that Lego set and I'm like, I'm not going to get $400 of value out of building this versus keeping it sealed and selling it now or selling in the future for hopefully even more money. Am I a scalper because I bought this thing on sale back when it was readily available and now it's not so readily available and people are willing to spend $400? I'm not forcing anyone to buy it. I'm simply looking at the prices and that's what it's going for. I feel the same way about concert tickets. If you bought a ticket when it was available to go see Taylor Swift for $100, which probably isn't even possible, and someone's willing to pay $5,000 for it, you're not evil for selling it for that. That is just the market doing market things, is how I feel. It might be unpopular opinion, but I mean, concerts are a touchy subject because scalpers really do exist. Like some people buy things specifically to resell them. Like the time that I got upset about this in particular was back when the PlayStation 5 came out and they would be available on Walmart at 3:30 in the afternoon. And I would get on ready to buy and they'd be sold out in 1 second because people were creating bot like buyers and buying them up at, whole swatches at a time and then reselling them specifically because they could. That's a little different, right? That's not quite the same thing. Like that is that's sinister in my opinion. You're taking, well, is it the same? That if it wasn't for the bot part of it, like if you got on there the same time I did and you got to it before I did and you bought it for $500 and then you were like, shoot, people are willing to spend $1,200 on this. I think I'm just going to sell the one I got. I mean, I don't need it that bad. That's fine. But if you're doing things to manipulate it, like creating bots, I have an issue with that. So I don't know. Maybe I'm more biased towards the reseller side of things since I've kind of fallen into that as the dirty scalper that I am. But I just look at it like you're fulfilling a need in the market, particularly with like, maybe not so much with PlayStations or concert tickets, but at a yard sale, I'm looking at something sitting in someone's driveway that's $10 and they want to get rid of it. And I look at it and I'm like, I think I could sell that online for $50. They don't want to take the time to sell it online. They don't want to make an eBay account. They don't want to ship it out. They just want it gone for $10. And I'm like, well, I'll do all that. I think that's wonderful, right? And all of a sudden this thing goes from someone's driveway in the middle of Pennsylvania to someone in California that really needed that thing and they just got it cheaper than anywhere else they can find it. That's the way I view reselling. You can be nefarious when it comes to such things too, I suppose, but that's my thoughts. He says, anyways, you're right that it's virtually pointless to argue with people about it because if they are dumb enough to think it, then they don't have the reasoning ability to be reasoned with. I think that's a good way to sum up pretty much every argument online. You're never going to convince someone of something that they don't believe in as they stand right now. It's so hard to change someone's opinion because we're so like set in our ways. I like to kind of think about things like oftentimes like I see listener feedback here and I read things and I'm just like, yeah, that's a good way of thinking of it. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong about that. Like the Mother's Day thing, my thoughts on it was, hey, let's just have a cookout. This would be a great time. But from another perspective, as a mother who maybe has to do more of the heavy lifting in that regard, it's like, well, I don't feel like making pasta salad. I don't want to have to clean up and do the dishes and put all this stuff away. It's good to sometimes think outside yourself. And I feel like people oftentimes are unwilling to think outside themselves when it can be such a great thing to do. And I think that's what we were talking about earlier about the power of a book, reading or listening to an audiobook, or even listen to a podcast of someone talking about their life. You can kind of think about things that don't necessarily come from your brain, but from someone else's, and you can decide for yourself, that's not necessarily what I believe, but I can see their point. In fact, I had someone comment, I forget who it was. They said, Greg, I don't always agree with you on things, but I appreciate your opinion or I like listen to it. And it gets me more curious than anything. I'm like, I wonder what they don't agree with. What did I say? I probably said something terrible. I don't know. I'm being honest, and maybe I have opinions that you don't, but I appreciate you, being tolerant or accepting of mine, and I am more than happy to return that favor. But good conversation there with Brickzar, aka Jabbo, the greatest Lego YouTuber of all time, on resellers, which he's a Bricklink seller. Are people mad because you buy a Lego set and you spend the time partying it out so they can buy an individual piece, and that piece costs more than it would have cost in that set probably? But you're doing a service for people out there is how I see it. As Tracy feels, she says, I find value in resellers. I live in a remote rural community and don't have access to many things. I also collect uncommon Duplo items. For instance, I just bought a Duplo education doll. There are not many out there, and even less in the USA. If it weren't for a reseller, I wouldn't have been able to find that one. Exactly. That was the thing that was sitting in someone's driveway, probably, that someone was like, oh, that's Duplo. I could probably sell that. And then Tracy's like, thank you. I was looking for that exact thing, and I didn't have a chance to go to Kansas to someone's yard sale and buy that. Sorry, I get a little passionate about this. Agreed, Tracy. I think we can. I think that we can all agree on that. Anyways, maybe not. I didn't change anyone's opinion. Next one comes from Rob, the Canadian geek, who's a legendary commenter. He says, "Happy birthday, Roxy, who turned 13, now 13 and 6 days old. Still kicking, still having fun, still shopping in my yard sale stuff. Happy Mother's Day to Cody, also known as Mrs. Brickitect in some circles." He says, this is a very nice comment, probably too generous. He says, "You're a 100 in all factors. You inform, inspire, motivate in an entertaining way. Thank you." He says, "I know what I have are my most feared words as a fellow Lego addict." Yeah, I know what I have. I know what I spent on this. And you're like, oh, no, you don't. You don't want to say that. You don't want to hear that. But I would feel that way in some cases. He says, "Clark is such a great kid. You and Cody definitely raised him right." Again, he's just very kind. He says, "At my school, they offer a singular finance course in senior year, and it's optional, which is ridiculous in my opinion. Foods, family classes to teach a little budgeting through, though, which is nice. Knowing the worth of money is something very valuable. Glad you enjoyed Silo. I've heard the books are fantastic too. I plan on reading them next year. Haven't heard much of the show. The show is really good. I don't know if I'd recommend just skipping the show if you're going to read the books. I probably would. That way you can get like your own thoughts on it. I know some things are different, which could frustrate you maybe if you read the books, but it might be even more frustrating if you read the books than watch the show. But the show was fun. Apple TV Plus. I have that still. I'm trying to cancel that. I started watching For All Mankind. Couldn't quite get into it. I might look around on there, but it's like $10 a month. And I'm like, I think that'd be better spent on Audible. If we're putting that money towards something, I think Audible's the move there. I would get more value, I suppose. But yeah, I think like that's the thing I strongly believe in is that there should be times spent during junior, senior year to teach kids about things like how a mortgage works. How much interest are you going to pay? How does a credit card work? What happens if you don't make your payment? How does one get a credit card? How do you write a check? I think many times parents are tasked with teaching their kids these things, and you would be surprised how many parents don't teach their kids common life sense. So sometimes, and sad that you have to rely on the school to do these things, but the school is essentially almost like a surrogate parent, a babysitter. And I think kids would be better off going into the world knowing how money works, how finances work, so they can avoid making mistakes before they do. It can save a lot of trouble for someone and potentially a bankruptcy later in life after they realize like, oh, wait, I just took out $50,000 of credit cards. I have to pay those back. What do you mean? I thought they just gave me the money. It may sound silly, but people believe things that if they're not taught, who knows? But what harm could it do? I'm sure you could find something that you could take away or replace to fill in with a finance course, even if it's just for half a year. I think in one semester, you could teach kids everything they need to know to like go out into the world as a competent person when it comes to money. And I'm just very passionate about that because I worked with a lot of people that whether they learned that or not, they did not take the right path and they found themselves on a bad one. And it hurt my soul to help extend that even further into the world of debt, which was the trouble they got themselves in for the first place. Next one comes from Lego Jasper, who comments on Interstellar, amazing movie. So he says, best movie ever for me just because the music had a chance to follow, or had a chance to go to an official Hans Zimmer concert last year. And he played a suite of Interstellar of 15 minutes. And it was the best thing there with my eyes closed, just taking it all in. How about that experience? That comment just painted a whole picture for me. That'd be pretty cool. The soundtrack from that movie, if you haven't watched Interstellar, dude, it's crazy good. The movie's crazy good, but like the soundtrack, you could just listen to the soundtrack. Honestly, it's amazing. Next one comes from Brad Durkin. Thanks for the comments, guys. He said, would you ever see Fantasmic in Disney if you go again? It's one of the best shows in Disney, in my opinion. I regret not doing it last time. Both times, there were two different occasions where I saw these people pouring into Fantasmic, and I was like, shoot, should we go to that? We should. If I go back to Disney, it's high on my list of things to do. I have a reason to go back now. We have to go. In fact, I watched a video of this guy and his wife. There was a TikTok video. Apologize. They did a day trip to Disney from New Jersey. They got on Spirit Airlines in New Jersey. God bless them. And for $38 a ticket, they flew to Orlando, had an Uber take them to, I think, the boardwalk, which I'm not sure why they went there and not just to a resort. But the Uber took them to a park, took them to the boardwalk. They went to Magic Kingdom in the morning. Then they went over to Hollywood Studio. Then they did the evening in Epcot. Then they Ubered back to the airport and then flew home and were home by like midnight. They left at 5 a.m. So in one day, they flew from New Jersey to Orlando, went to 3 of the 4 Disney parks, and then flew back home. I thought it was impressive, but I was like, dude, if you're going to go through all of that travel, I would say expense, but if they got the trip for $40, like, heck yeah, dude. I would just pony up the money and stay somewhere for a day. Like if you're already Ubering around Orlando, you could go stay at like $100 hotel and then have an extra day there, unless you're really restricted on your time. And maybe you didn't want to spend money for another day of park tickets. But like if you're gonna, I know for a fact that it's like a 2.5 hour flight, so you're spending 5 hours flying for one day. I mean, I've done it with Cedar Point. I guess he actually did an outline. People are like, how much did all this cost you? So he did an outline of it, and it really wasn't that bad. The most money they spent was at food at Epcot. It's crazy. And that's like with Ubering and all this stuff. But yeah, I was impressed they did a day trip of that. It got me thinking. I'm like, But the problem with us is just to get to the airport, it's a 3.5 hour drive for us. So there's 7 hours. We can never just do it in one day. Like that, when you come home, it's like a lost day just in traveling. Because by the time you leave Orlando and fly back to Philadelphia, which is like 2.5 hours, plus you have to be at the airport early, and then you drive from the airport home. It's like 6 hours right there. So if you lived really close to an airport that flew directly to Orlando, it'd be great, especially if you're tracking the flights and you're like, ooh, $20 I could go. Isn't it crazy? Like a $38 seat on a plane, like it would cost you more than that, and like for a tank of gas to drive, like to get out of New Jersey, basically. Wild. It was cool though. It was cool to see. Like I was impressed. Next one comes from, I do want to go back to Fantasmic and actually see what that's like in real life. Next one comes from Megan, who says, my husband decided to get rid of YouTube Premium. We're talking about streaming services. YouTube Premium, honestly, the one that offers the least, but is the most valuable to me. If you're talking about subscription services, and it's because there's no ads with YouTube Premium. I don't know what YouTube would be like right now to watch ads. And also I listen to I treat YouTube like a podcast, and I have it on my phone, but I turn the screen off. And I don't think you can do that without YouTube Premium. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I just shut my screen off and I just listen. And also I love YouTube Music. I don't use Spotify or anything like that. I just use YouTube Music and I listen to stuff on there on occasion. But she says, we lasted less than 24 hours before reactivating it. I was watching other videos throughout the day and the ads were so obnoxious. Glad I'm back to watching your material ad-free and the other content that I watch. Well, Missing Pieces only has an ad before it. And I don't put like mid-roll ads or break this up in any way, because I think that would be wildly distracting when you're like having a conversation with someone and all of a sudden an ad pops up for O'Reilly's Auto Parts. Woo! Yeah, I think that would suck. As a result, these episodes make like absolutely no money at all, but I'm not necessarily here for that. This is like for me, it's like a release for me and hopefully some entertainment for you. And I feel like I do this for myself and I do it for other people, but if it wasn't for the other people, I probably wouldn't do this for myself, if that makes sense. So to me, it's like a win-win. But yeah, I can't, like I have my Greg's Arcade account. When I logged in that's not under the YouTube Premium account, and like an ad starts playing, I'm like, what is this? And it sucks. Like I like it because it's the only way I make money, because YouTube Premium, as you probably know on YouTube, people don't like to pay for anything. Like everyone expects everything on YouTube to be free all the time. That's the internet's philosophy in most cases. Unless you're on like a streaming site where people are like, okay, like you make money through like like Twitch, you make money through donations or whatever, like super chats or whatever. I'm going to support you that way. But on YouTube is a bunch of freeloaders, right? Like that's just the way it is. I'm being honest. I'm not insulting you. I'm a YouTube person that's a freeloader as well, although I pay for premium, but very few people do. Hardly anyone uses YouTube Premium. They just accept the ads as a way of life. And that's kind of what these streaming services are doing now too. They're like, hey, would you like a cheaper version of Netflix with ads? Would you like Hulu with ads? Would you like Amazon Prime with ads? And I have to pay $3 extra to get the ads gone because ads are the worst. Like I don't want to tolerate it. And I'm willing to pay. It's like darn near, I think it's like $20 a month for YouTube Premium. I don't even know how much it is at this point. It just comes out. But I use YouTube so much that I feel like I get such great value from not being interrupted, having to watch a pre-roll ad, watching a video and then having an ad pop up. It's so worth it to me. Now, if you aren't a heavy user of YouTube, maybe not. If you get on occasionally to watch a video on how to fix your sink, or you like watching a cat video every once in a while, that's great. But the actual experience on YouTube as a heavy user, like with a ton of subscriptions and always watching all the time, I just can't without YouTube Premium. And I think that may honestly be a reason that people like TikTok more now, because you see an ad, but it doesn't feel like it's breaking up your content. You're swiping already. And it's like, oh, this thing is like, they're trying to sell you something, because TikTok, from what I can tell, is essentially becoming like an influencer-based QVC with the TikTok shop and all that bull spoop. So it's still not as intrusive as regular YouTube. Although I have noticed, like if you go to just like, instead of For You page, if you click on like your following on TikTok, it becomes very noticeable because you're like, who's this person? I'm not following this person. Oh, it's an ad. Okay. Or whatever. But yeah, I feel like TikTok gives people instant gratification or instant dopamine or whatever they're looking for. And it's non-committal. They feed you. People don't like to feed themselves typically, right? We're freeloaders that don't like to feed ourselves. I'm insulting myself and everyone at the same time here. You guys are like, forget you, Greg. You're a jerk. I'm not a freeloader. I'm not, I can feed myself. I like to feed myself, but boy, it is nice when you just get on TikTok and it's like, oh, there's a video. Boop. Oh, there's a video. Don't like that one. Oh, I'm going to watch this one. Oh, a couple going to Disney for the day. Great. That's how they get you guys. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just using that as an example of why I think people prefer that versus YouTube's like, hey, I'm going to watch this 15-minute video. Oh, there's 17 ads in the middle of it. Right in the middle of a guy saying a sentence, there's going to be an ad break that I can like have to skip or whatever. It's just, it makes for a terrible experience. I wish YouTube would find a way. I guess it really doesn't matter. I wish they'd find a way to decrease the price of YouTube Premium and get more people to commit to it. I think what they need to do is an affiliate program. YouTube should definitely listen to this. So you're watching Missing Pieces, for example, and I'm like, hey, this episode's brought to you by YouTube Premium. If you would like to sign up, it's $9.95 a month or whatever. They try to make it less than what it is now if you get it off volume. $9.95 a month, but if you sign up now, you get your first 3 months free, and then they would give me like a kickback. You could get a lot of people to learn about YouTube Premium and then also sign up for it, instead of every freaking video that I watch being sponsored by Squarespace or BetterHelp. I don't know who else actually advertises on YouTube, but every video I watch is like Squarespace, BetterHelp, and I'm just like, their entire budget must just be on YouTube ads. Anyways, if YouTube did something similar to that and got people to sign up for premium, people realize the benefits of it, I think more people would do it. Creators actually make more money through YouTube Premium, per capita than they do through the ads. So everyone would be better off as a creator if people had YouTube Premium. You'd be better off as a viewer of YouTube, but it would cost you money, which again is the one thing that you're unwilling to part with, because this is free to you and you would rather die than put 1 penny into anything that you see on YouTube, whether it be a creator or the product itself. Even though you consume it endlessly, you just tolerate it. Maybe it's because you don't know any better, but I can tell you this. Ever since I got YouTube Premium, I can never go back. But again, it's expensive. So you got to weigh the pros and cons there. And maybe it's not in your budget, or you're a kid, or whatever the case is. Watch the ads, because that's how I make money. So let's keep doing what you're doing, guys. And I hope I didn't insult us too hard there, but it's just my thought collectively on everything that I see and how I feel. Next, that was literally Megan telling me about her YouTube Premium, and I went on that for 20 minutes. There's my, not a rant, not a negative. Was it a rant? More of like a, I don't know. Maybe it was a rant. We'll call it a rant. Call it what it is. Next one comes from Clay Turtle, who says, I found your channel while I was watching ads on YouTube. No, he didn't say that. Found your channel looking for how to do something. Sure, it was about organizing Lego. Been hooked since. Yeah, I went fishing for clay turtles and I got them. I put a trap out, turtle trap. Is there such thing? He says, it's good to get in-laws out and about. I take my future father-in-law to flea markets throughout the summer, so he's not home all weekend. Getting married in a few weeks, I've been focused on spending money on that. Can't buy YouTube Premium. He didn't say that either. He says he's never going to comment again. He says, can't wait to get back out there looking for deals. I got plenty of better deals when my son is with me. Played the heck out of Madden 94 on this. Yeah, you got to take the cute kid along. People, they hook the kids up. When you go out there as a dirty old scalper or whatever we are, people are like, just kidding. He says, bought a Sega last year and working on getting games I had in the 90s. Oh my God. I love post-apocalypse movies and books. You know, I was thinking about how much I like them, but there was one that like really depressed me when I watched the end of it. It was I Am Legend with Will Smith. That movie was super depressing, but another one that I think supposedly the book is way better. Don't watch I Am Legend if you don't want to be sad. He says, been working on writing a book off and on for a year. May have to give Silo a watch. Soon there will be AI that can walk around a yard sale and it'll tell you what to pick up for a good price. I'm sure most bin stuff at this end of the week gets thrown out. Dumpster diving in the back of the bins would be fun. I agree. I wish I could. Haven't been to Cedar Point for I think 10 years. Hoping to go this year. Thanks as always for another Monday morning listen. Thank you for another comment. I appreciate that. He covered pretty much everything. And it sounds like you're off to a really great start in life. You got yourself a Sega Genesis. Check that off the list. About to get married. You got the in-laws going out shopping, looking for scores. Like me, you same. We're living the life, my friend. These are the good times. I truly believe that. Good luck with your hunt for Sega stuff. Man, I haven't found any vintage video games out in the wild forever, unless you're considering like Wii and PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360 vintage, which maybe they are now. We're darn near 15, 20 years out, so I guess that's the way it is. But I would lose my marbles if I saw like a Sega Genesis game or some Nintendo stuff or a Super Nintendo. Those kids are my age now. They got their own kids. Like that stuff's all gone, which is a bummer. Anyways, next one comes from, and last one, we got to catch up on what Sam's going on. What new sentence? What Sam's going on in his life? What's he got going on? You know Sam Bartz. We all know him. He says, it sounds like you had a busy week in the world of buying and reselling. The $30 Lego sounded like a great deal, but I'm not an expert on that, of course. It was. He says, hey, maybe if Clark comes with you in the future, he can help you get good deals more often. Also, it looks like you'll be having community garage sales during the first week of June. We might be hosting one. I sure hope my education on yard sales by Greg comes in handy. There you go. You got some education. Check that off the list. Inspiration, education. It says, my time between my previous comment and now has been a mixture of relaxed and insane. Ooh, intrigued. He says, I can't tell you why it was insane quite yet, but I can tell you why it's been relaxed. It's been relaxed because as the school year winds down, lesson plans kind of get less complicated. Teachers are tapping out just like you kids are. I had some, I shouldn't call you a kid, young people. I had some major wins this week. Wins of the week, making a comeback, finally. It says, I opened a savings account. Did you have money to put into it? That's the real win. Also, organized my Lego or my Nintendo DS family of consoles and games. What does that kind of stuff excite me? Your guess is as good as mine. Organizing is great. When you're done at your house, come over to mine. I've got lots of things for you to work on over here with organizing if you love doing it, if you have the time. He says, and now, the biggest news of all. We get the drum roll sound effect. I need one of those soundboards. When I listen to next week's podcast, I'll officially be done with junior year. This means only one thing. Senior year is incoming. It's definitely going to be bittersweet when this thing we call high school comes to a close. But I can't wait to see what the future holds for my friends and I. I made a pledge to myself last August that I would live these last 2 years of high school I have to the fullest, and I definitely feel that I have mostly accomplished that. I try my darndest to make every day a no-zero day, and I, for once, feel super proud of myself. Thank you for following me on my journey throughout the past year. Hopefully we will have many more years together. To the community, make sure to make every day a no-zero day and live them like they're your best days ever. I will see y'all when I'm officially on summer break. Dang! Sam knows how to end a podcast. Classy fella. Holy smokes. All I could think of when you were telling me all this story is just how awesome that is. Like, also, and this is my other thought, you are a very good writer. Somebody did a great job with you in school. Maybe you had a Mrs. Brickitect as an English teacher along the way or something, but very well written. You painted a whole picture for us, a whole story. You had the outro going. it felt like reading someone's journal entry. And that's what I hope this podcast feels like. And I'm just excited you're along. I know and I fear that someday, though, Sam, you're going to move on with your life. You're going to, just like a lot of the other kids that have followed my journey and Clark's journey along the way, you're in for a bit. And eventually, you go off and you get married like Clay Turtle. And you go off. But I want to keep track of you. I want to know what's going on. And I appreciate you commenting and letting us know what's going on, bringing back the win of the week. So if you guys have any win of the weeks, you better let me know. I want to know about those. Anything else I talked about is fair game. If you want to trash me, if you want to agree with me, if you want to just bring up a whole nother topic that I could go off on for 20 minutes on a week that not much happened, that somehow got this podcast to an hour this week on one that I thought, I'm like, dude, I'm going to go down there and talk for about 10 minutes and that's going to be a wrap. Let's do it. Thank you for tuning in this week. Sam, thank you for that lovely comment, man. Super proud of you. Good luck at senior year. Actually, I can't say that yet because you're about to go on like summer break. So have fun with that. Don't even think about school. Summer break it is. And I hope you guys have a glorious week. We're going to be back next week, of course, with stories to tell, things that have happened, hopefully some good things, maybe less sickness in our lives. Hopefully none of you guys get it through the podcast here. Probably not contagious. What I hope is contagious is your enjoyment of this episode. I love doing this, and I'm thankful that there's people out there that decide to take time out of their day, out of their week, and out of their life to tune into what's going on in mine. On that, I hope you have a glorious week, and as always, we'll find you in the next Missing Pieces.